I get knocked down, I jump back up, turn up the heat, I'll sweat it up. Let it rain, let it pour. You know I couldn't make it ever.
Hey guys, it's Michael. Welcome back to week 2 of Hooves of Hope. We're so excited to talk to you a little bit more today about our virtue, courage. And what is courage, guys? Courage is being scared to death and saddling up anyway. And I'm curious, why don't we take the next minute, talk to your Wrangler, share times in which you have shown courage this last week, okay? And we'll check back in. Great work, guys. So we are so excited to hear all of the different stories that you have about how you're showing courage, and we want to keep hearing them, so bring them back next week. So maybe you're wondering, what on earth did Gabe and Mr. Buttons have to do with today's story? You see, I don't know if you know this, but Mr. Buttons is our shortest horse here, and Gabe is our tallest horse. And as I saw the two of them kind of having what it seemed like a showdown, a standoff, it made me think of today's story. Why don't we go ahead and take a look? All right, guys, so we're talking about courage, and you may be wondering why I'm standing up here so tall and why we're talking about Gabe and Mr. Buttons and how different their height is. Well, you see, today's story involves a giant and a young little man. It is found in the book of 1 Samuel. Now, is 1 Samuel in the Old Testament or the New Testament of the Bible? You're right. It's found in the Old Testament. In fact, if you were paying attention last week to the story, it's found in the book of Genesis, which is also in the Old Testament. So you're just going to flip a few books back to 1 Samuel, and it's found in chapter 17. You see, in this story, there are two different armies here that are represented. We've got the Philistines. Everyone say, boo, Philistines. We've got the Israelites. Yay, Philistines. Well, you see, the Philistines were not liked by anybody because they were mean and they were vicious and they would do cruel things to people. And the Israelites were God's people, God's chosen people. And there was an area where the two collided, and God had told the Israelites that they were going to win this battle. But there was something incredibly scary about this particular battle. You see, there was a giant named Goliath. What was his name? Goliath. And he stood over 9 feet tall. 9 feet tall. He couldn't even walk in the doors in here. I mean, he's huge. In fact, I was trying to do the math, but I'm not very good at math. I think I might be about as tall as Goliath was, or maybe just a little bit taller as I'm standing here telling you this story. Pretty crazy, right? So, in today's story, Goliath was there with the Philistines and the Israelites, and he was shouting all kinds of things at the Israelites, saying, send me your bravest man, and if he can beat me, then we're done. We'll be your servants. And if I beat him, then you'll be our servants. Now, the thing is in the Israelite army, they were terrified of Goliath. even though God had promised them that he was going to take care of them and they were going to conquer the Philistines, they were still scared by this giant that stood in their way. Well, that was everybody except for a young boy named David. Now, David was just a shepherd boy, and his brothers were out there fighting, and he was sent out by his dad to deliver some food to his brothers, and he heard about this giant named Goliath who was taunting everybody, and he was like, well, what's the big deal about this guy? Why aren't we fighting him? And they're like, he's too big, he's too massive, he's going to kill everybody. And David showed courage. And what is courage again, guys? Courage is being scared to death, but saddling up anyway. And so David trusted God, showed courage, and he went after Goliath. Let's take a look. So here's David, a small little guy that he is going to show courage way more than the Israelite army. Now, we have to take a look at a couple things. One, Goliath is 9 feet tall. His armor weighed over 100 pounds. 100 pounds. And so then we've got David, who is a little guy. In fact, he's so small, when King Saul went to give him his armor, the armor was too heavy for David, and it was too big, and so there was no way that he could even wear the armor to fight Goliath, this giant. So let's take a look, though, a little bit about why David might have had so much courage and could trust God. You see, he was a shepherd. That meant his job was to take care of sheep. And the sheep faced all kinds of enemies, from lions and bears and all kinds of different things. And David would be out there, and he had to protect his sheep because that was his job. And he told the Israelites, he's like, if God can help me protect my sheep, and he can be with me and help me kill a lion and kill the bear and do all those things with my bare hand, surely that same God is going to be with me to face this giant. So David went down to the river, and he picked up just a few stones. He picked up 5 stones. How many stones, guys? 5. He picked up 5 stones from the river, and he took with him his slingshot. Now, this does not seem like much of a weapon against a 9-foot giant with a spear and big old armor that weighs over 100 pounds. But you know what? David realized it wasn't so much about this, but that God was going to help him, and that he had courage, and he trusted God to help him. So, went out there on the field, on the battlefield, and there stands this massive giant. That's when he started taunting David. You send the smallest guy out here to battle me? This is funny. He even laughed. He just thought this was really humorous. But David reached down into his pouch, he grabbed one of his stones, and he began to swing that around. Swinging and swinging and swinging and swinging, and then all of a sudden, he just let go, and that rock went soaring through the air. And there's Goliath laughing and taunting, ha ha, the smallest man, and all of a sudden, boom, that rock hit Goliath right in the middle of the forehead. And he fell to the ground dead. The Israelites were astonished. They were so excited. Oh my word, we just won. God helped us. You see, because of the courage of David, the Israelites' army, they conquered the Philistines, and they were able to take that land. And the Philistines became their servants. They began to help them build things and do things for them. You see, David learned a very valuable lesson that we can learn as well. That God is always going to be with us. God is going to help us no matter how big or how small the thing may be. We may be facing a giant right now. God is always going to be with us. Things may seem like it's not a big deal. God's always with us. We can show courage. So I want you to take a minute right now, and I want you to talk to your wrangler. What is an area of your life where you feel like you're facing a giant? It could be something like the state test, or it could be something going on at home. It could be a struggle that you're having with one of your friends. It could be mental health because you have a diagnosis that makes things challenging for you. Whatever it may be, we know that we can show courage, and even if we're scared to death, we can saddle up anyway, because we know God is always going to be with us. So why don't you take a minute, talk to your wrangler about where you need help showing courage this week. Great work, guys. I'm so excited about how you're being honest and open about the things that are going on in your life. Because you know what? Together we can help each other out. So this week, I want you to be thinking about David and Goliath. I want you to be thinking about the challenges, the things that might have gone on for David about, oh, I'm too small, I'm not good enough, I can't do this. Because you know what? I think we all face those things. And this week, I really want you to be working on something. Anytime you see something that is someone that is bigger than you, that is taller than you, I want you to be thinking about David and Goliath. And knowing that no matter how big or how small things may seem, God is always with us and we can show courage. So, your challenge this week. You see somebody bigger than you, think about David and Goliath and be reminded that God is always with you. Keep showing courage, guys, and we'll see you back here next week.
And if I get knocked down, I jump back